access rules that are dedicated to strict control of what you can access on your web application on a per service basis. Now, why do we have allow deny rules if we have a global access list? Now, global access lists are defined in security policies. And security policies, as we said before, are the baseline configuration of the web. You can have a security policy that it's called My Global Policy, which is assigned to multiple services. This means that if you change something to that security policy, multiple services will be affected. Okay? Now, with allow deny rules, you are defining more strict rules that are dedicated for a particular service. So that's why global ACLs are called global, because they must be as generic as possible. So you want to block PHP info, doesn't matter where it is, you block it. If you want to segment your web application, then you should not use global ACLs, but you should use these allow deny rules. Now, where do we put allow deny rules in the general flow of the inspection of the request and the response? We're going to put them right after session tracking. Okay, so if session tracking is enabled, then the system will say, all right, can we actually access this resource? Yes or no? If the answer is no, we don't even engage the other sub-policies. All right, we don't waste system resources. If the answer is yes, then the request will be processed by the URL protection. Now, one of the classic examples of why we want to use allow deny rules is to create something that is called application zoning. Application zoning will allow you to segment your web application based on different concepts, like if the application, if these pages should be accessed, if the user is authenticated, not authenticated, what is the flow that we have to use in terms of requests. Like, for example, you are on the public version of the website, maybe the home page. Then, if you want to access the private version of the application, you have to pass through an access control page. If you are not authenticated, then the allow deny rule will automatically redirect you to the access control page, or to the home page, or to an error page. On the other hand, the payment section of this web application cannot be accessed either if you are going from the public part or the private part directly. Okay, so you have to go public, private, payments, and the correct flow is going to be public. You then authenticate, then you go into the private part, and then you access the payments. Okay, only if certain conditions will apply. Now, in order to create these rules, you just have to configure the WAF. All right, this is a concept that you apply in the WAF for your web application, but you don't have to change your web app. Okay, you can keep your web app as it is and then segment it with the allow deny rules. Now, rules can be created for URLs. In this case, you got segmentation, or for headers. Again, when you start to filter in your security policies, you filter for all traffic. Okay, it's going to be a policy that is going to be applied to all traffic for those security policies. Here you have the possibility to restrict, for example, specific requests that are, for example, containing a special character, that only on that request it should not be allowed. Okay, so then basically this will allow the possibility to be more granular. Okay. There is a question regarding the lab. Okay, so I will check your environment later. All right, so don't worry. So how do we configure allow deny rules? We go to the WAF. We go to websites, allow deny. So these are basically the definitions of the rule: URLs and headers. If we add an allow deny rule for our web application. For example, in the bed store, you can access a specific folder that is called backup. Backup or backups? I don't remember. Backup. Yeah, backup. Okay. Now, let's say that we want to prevent this. We want to prevent the access to this folder for some reasons. Okay, obvious reasons actually. So we can basically call this rule, for example, deny backup, and the host match should be anyone, right? And the URL match should be /backup. Okay. Now, in this case, we can have some actions that we can do. These are similar to the global ACLs. We can process, allow, deny, and the redirect actions. Okay. Now, in this case, we still have the possibility to set what is the response. For example, we can reset the connection or send the default page. Or if you use redirect, you can still use your variables here. Okay, the percentage s to keep that the URL part. Okay, sorry, the domain part. So in this case, I'm going to say deny and log. Okay, and I'm going to reset the connection. Okay, of course, I can use extended match if I want. So I'm going to save this. Okay, let me see. So now we have that the rule is active. See, the rule is on. We also have a column here that will tell me how many times this rule has been hit. And this is very nice. This is a feature that most network firewalls have when you're configuring access rules. So you can basically see how many times this rule is hit. So if now we are trying to access again, this must be, oh, that's the bad store. So let's say WAF service. Okay, and it's not working. Let's see why. Again, it's fun to troubleshoot. So let's see if this is correctly configured. Okay, yes. So we have backup in the URL match, which is correct. We have deny and log, reset. Let's see what the access logs say. Access logs, I cannot actually see my request. So let's actually cat DNS problems, and let's see if the VIP is here. Yes, it's the VIP. Should be able to see my request in the access logs. I don't, oh, sorry guys, I was configuring the wrong WAF. So I was configuring the WAF of student 1 because there was troubleshooting something here. So let's delete it, and let's access my WAF. Which is this one. Right? So deny BCK, here is backup, and we're going to deny and log, reset, and that's fine. So now we will try to access this directory. You're still able to access it. And if you start to use the web service, it's working. Still accessing. Let's see why. Access log. Let's see if I can see my connection. I can see my connection. So my connection was not filtered by the Loudiner rule. It's valid. Okay, I got some IDs. That's backup. Let's say why it was not filtered in the rule. It's always nice when something doesn't work on the first try, because then we can troubleshoot. Okay, so in this case we have everything. The URL match is actually backup, and I would actually add the star wildcard just for this example, because sometimes browsers get in the way. And here we have the connection reset. The reason why it was not blocked at the first time is that some browsers will try to append a trailing slash on your URL. So if you finish your URL like this, your Firefox will automatically append a slash, okay? Which is a problem for me, because my allow deny rule was actually trapping backup, not backup slash, okay? So you had two options here. You could put backup and then a star, or backup slash and star. It's up to you, all right? So that's how you actually fix this problem. Then if we click add, on the header, you can, for example, say that I want to have the header ACLs, I want to check for specific attacks for this part of my access list, okay, for this web service, web application. Now, the creation of headers access lists, or allow deny rules, are a little bit different than anything that you configure in the WAF. This is like brute force protection. You first add the access list into the WAF, and then you edit the parameters. Otherwise, you will not see all the parameters. So let's add an header ACL. Let's call it, for example, SQL strict. Okay, then the header name that we have to define is, for example, let's use cookie. Okay, then the mode, again, could be passive or active. We can have a maximum header value. So this is now the new value for the cookie, and the denied meta characters. I'm going to save it. All right, then we're going to edit. And as you can see, now I can select my attack types. Okay, it was not possible to do it before. Just takes a little bit of time to save it. Right, let's actually close this. It should be enough. Now, one thing that I would like to explain, since we are here in the allow deny rules, is the multi-object edit option that we have in the WAF. Now, it might happen that you have multiple rules, okay? Whenever you see this checkbox on the left side of an object, you can actually click on this checkbox, okay? After you click on the checkbox, you click on the actions drop-down window, and then you click, for example, in this case, it's only edit. So we click edit, and this will allow you to change some properties of multiple rules. Okay, for example, let's say that you want to change the response page for multiple rules. So we have checked, let's say, 5 or 6 allow deny rules, and then you have created your default page, and you want to apply this response page to all the rules. What you have to do is you have to click on this checkbox, click on deny response, click on this response page, and then click, and then you say, for example, the default error response, okay, or my response page. And this will basically change multiple rules at the same time. It is important that you click on this checkbox, on the checkbox that's right above the setting that you want to change. Okay, so if you want to turn off the rule, you have to set this checkbox and set the rule to no. Then you click Save. And now, in this case, we only have one rule, so this rule is set to off. Do not forget to mark that checkbox, otherwise, whatever you set in the multi-edit option, it will not be applied. Okay, so everything will stay as it is. All right, so do you have any questions regarding allow deny rules? All right, if there are no questions, we will now see how we can configure another feature of the WAF, which is called website profiles. Now, website profiles will allow you to have a very, very strict relationship between your web application and the WAF. Now, so far, we have configured a lot of rules, policies, but all these rules and policies were somehow generic. Okay? Yes, of course, the URL policies were a little bit more specific because you might want to activate the antivirus for a specific page, but there was no relationship between the structure of the web application and what the WAF should check in that structure. Remember the slide of the positive model where we had Tommy O'Connor and the two input fields, and then we specified that the two input fields were alpha and they were maximum 16 characters. Well, you can achieve that type of configuration with website profiles. So in the website profiles, we are going to define strict profiles for your web application. Now, for example, here we have a page that it's called reg.cgi. Now, we are going to define the URL in the WAF. So we're going to define the URL that it's called /cgi/bin/reg.cgi. Inside this page, we are going to define some elements, some objects. These objects are called parameters. Okay, and for each object, we're going to create a parameter profile. So here we have a parameter that is called first name. It is an input field. The type is alpha, and it is maximum of 16 characters. Okay, the same is for last name. So for all the pages that you want to have this strict relationship between the WAF and the web application, you have to create these profiles. Now, you might be wondering, but here we have another URL protection profile, and then we have another parameter protection profile. So how is this going to work with the security policy? I mean, we already have in the security policy URL protection and parameter protection, right? Where we set, for example, the file uploads, the maximum file size, the methods, and so on. Well, when you configure profiles in the WAF, you are going to complement what is the configuration of the security policy. So a website profile will not replace the security policy. It will just, let's say, configure additional security settings for that profile. So in your, for example, global security policy, you can have that the maximum value, the maximum length for your header or for your parameter is 1 kilobyte. But then for the profile, you put, for example, 5 kilobytes. Why? Because that is the way that the web application works for that URL. Okay? So that's how you use basically profiles to complement your security policies. Now, when you create profiles, okay, for your web application, you can still use the modes of the WAF, active and passive. All right? So active, again, will validate the request and enforce the profile. Okay, so if the profile is there and then it's active, then things are going to be blocked by the profile. And profiles are going to be processed before the security policies. If you put it in a passive mode, then you will log everything, okay, but not block the violations. Now, there is another mode that is only valid for website profiles that is called the learning mode. And if you set a profile into a learning mode, in that case, the web application firewall will learn the structure of your web application for you. So you don't have to basically configure by hand all the profiles or the parameters, but the WAF will do it for you automatically. Well, sort of. Okay? I will show you in a moment how this works. Now, when you create a profile, you have the option to create a fully positive security model for your web application. Okay? This means that the slider will be moved completely to the left. Okay? So we are fully positive, and it means that whatever you want to accept, you have to explicitly define in the WAF. Okay, so by default, the WAF blocks everything. Whatever you want to accept, you configure it. You have a page with 2 input fields and a submit button. You have to configure that page with 2 input fields and a submit button. If you screw up the configuration of that page, the WAF will start to block. Okay? Now, this is done through a simple checkbox that you will see on the interface that is called the strict profile check. What the strict profile check will do is this. If the checkbox is marked, then the request is validated against the profile. Okay? So if the profile exists, then the request is evaluated against this profile. If there is no match in the URL profile, the request is denied. Okay, so if you have a parameter that is not defined in your page, okay, in the WAF configuration of that page, their request is denied. It's blocked. You break your web app. Okay, it's not going to work anymore. On the other hand, if the strict profile check is disabled, then in that case, if a profile exists, then the WAF will apply that website profile. If the website profile does not exist, then the WAF will fall back to the security policy. URL protection, parameter protection. Okay? So this is very important, because if you decide that you want to use the strict profile check, then you must know that the complexity of the configuration is going to increase exponentially. You must know exactly how your web app works, and you must know exactly how it is, basically, what is the structure, what are all the pages, parameters, and so on. That's why you normally don't turn on the strict profile check for the whole web app. You normally turn it on for a specific part of your web application, like, for example, the payment section, or maybe the login page. okay, where you absolutely want specific inputs in your web application, and you do not accept anything else. So this is what also website profiles will allow you to do. Now, for the learning process, okay, we said that the WAF can learn the structure of your web application. For the learning process, you are going to use an engine in the WAF that is called the Adaptive Profiling Engine. The Adaptive Profiling Engine will try to build all the URL profiles or the parameter profiles based on the traffic that the WAF sees. So we have some traffic, response and requests and response, and based on what the WAF will see, remember that the WAF is a reverse proxy, so it will see everything, it's going to create the model for your web application. Now, this feature is available only on models 660 and above, and you should use this feature intelligently, okay, because it uses a lot of resources, okay? Not just a little bit, a lot of resources. So don't turn adaptive profiling on and then go and have lunch because for the whole web application, because that will crash the WAF, okay? If you have a very big web application with a lot of traffic. So use adaptive profiling when you know that certain traffic is through the WAF and the web application structure can be learned up to a certain point, and so on. Okay? So this can really kill your WAF if you don't use it with paying attention. Okay? Now, when the system is learning the structure of your web application, you can create, before you start the learning process, some optimizers. Now, profile optimizers will allow you to save a single profile for multiple URLs that look the same, okay? Which normally they have the same properties, okay? In this case, we have ABC, page 1.html, then we have page 2, then we have page 3, then we have page 4. Okay? Normally, if you just enable adaptive profiling, what the WAF will do is that it will create a profile for page 1, a profile for page 2, page 3, and page 4. Okay? This might be wanted, okay? Or you might say, oh, who cares? I mean, they're just the same pages with different content. I will create profile optimizer, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to specify what is the character that can be used as a variable. Okay, so in this case, the WAF will basically say that anything that is between ABC/page and .html can be included in the same profile. So instead of having 4 profiles, you can have 1. Okay, of course, you have to be sure that these pages will share the same security model. Okay, otherwise, again, you will screw up everything. Now, inside these profiles, you can also create parameter optimizers that will allow you, again, to save only 1 parameter, okay, instead of 4 parameters with the same concept. You got 4 parameters, which basically are the same, logically the same. You don't have to save 4 parameters, you save 1. Okay? In this case, you can only put a wildcard at the end of the parameter name. Okay? This is also depending on how web developers have created your web application. Okay? So let's switch to the web application firewall, and let's see how we can create profiles. Now we go to websites profile. Now, the first thing that you have to do is make sure that you select the right service that you want to actually use with the profiles. Then you have 2 options. The first option is that you create the profile by hand. Okay, means that you type in all the URLs, all the parameters, and everything that you want to protect with the WAF. This is one option, which is totally legitimate. I mean, if you just want to create the profile for a couple of pages, who cares? A couple of URLs, who cares? All right? On the other hand, If you want to have a more complex structure of your web application and you have a model 660 or a higher model, you might want to use the adaptive profiling engine. Okay, so you just click Start Learning, and the WAF will start to learn. And then we will see what it will learn. Okay, so for the sake of this course, I will use the manual configuration of the profile, so I can show you step by step what are all the things that you should do if you want to do it manually. And in the lab, you will do it with the learning, with adaptive profiling. Okay, so you will see what is going to happen when the WAF is learning the web application, what he has found, is it correct, is it not correct. Remember that the WAF is always a machine. Okay, it's not intelligent like a human, so it might make mistake. Okay, and it will make mistakes. Okay, so let's create a URL profile for our web application. Okay, so our goal is actually to protect this field here, the quick search field. Why do we want to protect it? Because if you type 1000, you don't have a problem, right? But if you type the single quote, oh, that's good, that's good. The single quote is protected by the security policy. So single quote is not a problem. But what about if I type ABC? ABC actually generates an exception in my web application. And this exception is not caught by the WAF, okay? Because by the way, that depending on the way that the web application is written, some exceptions are just pasted into the page, and then there is no way that the WAF would actually say, okay, I have to cloak, I have to hide this thing, okay? So also this might be very harmful, okay, for the web application to have letters here in where you normally want only numbers. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a profile for this page, okay, CGI bin betstore.cgi, and I'm going to identify a parameter for this search field. Okay, so let's begin with the URL profile. Okay, one step at a time. So this is the page that I want to protect. So I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to go to the WAF and click Add URL. All right. Now the profile name. Let's take a look at the URL. Okay, it's CGI/betstore.cgi. Okay, that's my profile. Then, shall I use extended match? Not really. I don't care about the request at all, except for the URL. Okay, so I don't use extended match. What about the mode of this profile? Well, I'm doing everything by hand, and I will activate the profile right away. This URL profile, okay? Not the website profile, the URL profile. Then what else do I want to configure here? Shall I allow queries? Of course, otherwise I won't be able to use this application anymore. What about hidden parameter protection? At the moment, forms are fine. Okay, these are parameters inside your web application. I will show you an example in a moment. Cross-site request forgery, I don't really care. All the other types of attacks, I don't really care. Okay, at the moment, I'm just considering to lock down that parameter for now. Later, if I want, I could change the configuration of the URL profile. So I click Save. Oh, there is a problem. What's the problem? Now I am going to do some mistakes on purpose, okay? Because if you don't configure this part of the WAF correctly, you are going to be screwed, okay, with the WAF configuration. Now, what was the problem with this configuration? The problem was the name, okay? So I cannot use CGI bin pet store, but I will call it petstore.cgi. Okay, so even though the URL specifies the whole path, the full path, here I'm going to just to use the name of the page. Okay, and then let's put it to active. All right, so now we have our URL profile, okay, and you can see here the structure, CGI bin, petstore.cgi. Now, when I select, you see this checkbox, I click the checkbox. When I select this profile, I can then add the parameter, okay? So I'm going to click Add Param, and now I can specify the parameter for my profile. I only have one profile defined. Now, let's put a name here, okay? Let's call it Quick Search. Again, I will make mistakes on purpose, okay? Let's call it Quick Search. Now, the status of this parameter is going to be on. So for each parameter, you can turn it on and off, okay? Now, what's the parameter name in the web application? Well, I don't know. Let's see. Let's go here. Let's right-click on this field, and let's do Inspect Element. Okay. Now, if we take a look at the inspector, we will see that this is an input field, of course, and the name is Search Query. Okay. So I'm going to right-click. Actually, I'm going to copy, Control-C. All right, and I'm going to go back to the WAF and paste search query, okay, in the name. Is it an input field? Yes, of course, it's an input field, but it could be a read-only field, it could be a session choice field, a global choice, a session invariant, and a file upload. What's the difference between all these choices? That's a very interesting question. Read some documents regarding HTML. Okay, there is no time to explain what is a session environment or a session or global choice. All right. Values. In this case, we don't care because it's not a global choice. Parameter class. What do we expect inside this input field? We expect numbers, right? So integers. So we're going to specify integer. All right, so numeric type validation is numeric. All right, what's the maximum value? All right, well, in this case, well, let's use 1000. We don't know. We actually don't know what is this for our web application. Is it required? No. If you said yes here, then the WAF would throw an error because this is basically, it might not be there in some pages. Should we ignore it? No, please. Should we validate the parameter name? In this case, no, because we don't have we don't block any specific attacks. Okay, this is because sometimes you can throw an attack using the parameter names also. Allow file uploads. We don't care. Okay, we just leave the default configuration. All right. Sorry. Just wait until it populates. Here we go. So now we have our URL profile and our parameter profile. Okay. Now, is our website profile active? Not yet. Why? Let's take a look at the information that we have here. Use profile, yes. All right, okay. Is it a strict profile? No. Okay, so the strict flag is not set, okay? What is the mode? Passive. So you can put a whole profile in a passive mode or single URLs in passive mode. So let's edit this profile and let's put it in active. Okay. By the way, here you can also specify what are the allowed domains. In my case, my allowed domains would be WAF service 00.qru.org. This is very, very important, especially if you use the strict profile check, because the strict profile check will actually check what are the allowed domains. Okay, so if you have waf00.qru.org and then you say, oh, let's use the IP address. Let's see if it works with the IP address. It will never work, okay, because it's not defined in the allowed domains. Okay, this is the host header, basically. All right, now we have a profile in place. It is active. Yes, everything is configured. Let's go back to our Firefox. Let's close the inspector. And let's search for 1000 again. Yes, we have a result. Let's search for ABC. Nope. Nope. ABC, sorry, you cannot use it. Okay, let's see what happened. Let's go to basic, web firewall logs. Now, this is my blocked request. Okay, let's click on details. Let's analyze the details of this block request. Now, this is the service VIP, the URL, the method, the protocol, and the query string. Okay, so this is search query, my input field, and this is the value ABC. Okay, so that input field will basically take whatever you put in that field and then put it in the URL as a query. Some web applications work like this. Other web applications will put this in the post, as a post request in the body. Okay, so you will see here post, and then you will not see the value here because it's going to be in the body. Okay, it depends how the web application is written. Now, we have information about the client, and then we have information about the prevention details. Okay, now let's see how we can actually troubleshoot this. Okay, we can get more information. Now, the action is deny. Okay, we got it because it was blocked. What was the rule that blocked this this request? Well, it was a parameter profile. It was the one that we have created, and this is how you read this path. You read it like this. The first word before the first column is the name of the service, so bed store. Then you have column. The second value is the URL profile. Okay? The third value after the column is the name of the parameter. Okay, so service, URL profile, parameter profile. This is how you read this string. And this is very important, okay? Because when you have to troubleshoot, this is where you have what you have to see, what you have to look for to change the configuration of the WAF or to double check that everything is configured correctly in the WAF. Now, in the attack details, we have that this is a parameter input validation. Okay, violation, it has failed. It is an injection attack because we have injected some code, even if it just was ABC. And in the detail, we say that this parameter type is numeric. The name of the parameter is search query, and the value is ABC. Okay, this is the value that we have actually put in the input field. All right. So let's actually go following this path into the configuration of the WAF to see if we can change this quick search. Okay, so let's close this. So we go to website, website profiles. Then we go to bedstore.cgi. This is the URL parameter name. And then, wow, where is quick search? It's not here. There is no quick search. Why? Because what the WAF will actually show you it's not the name that you have given to the parameter, but it is the name of the parameter itself. Okay? So we have called this parameter quick search, and this is what you will see in the logs, but the real name of the parameter is search query. So don't do this mistake. Call the parameter profile name with the same name of your parameter. Otherwise, you will be lost. Okay? You won't be able to troubleshoot these kind of errors in the WAF. All right? So essentially, this is how you configure your parameter. Is this enough? Did we really have increased the security of that input field? Well, yes, up to a certain point. Why? Because let's search for 1001. It works. Let's search for 1010. It works. Let's search for 10. Uh-oh. 10 is a problem. All right? It is a number, because 10 is an integer, but it's not understood by the web application, because the web application is expecting something like 1000 something. All right? So we still have something to do. We still have to fix this problem. Okay? We only fix the problem for letters, but not for this type of integers. So what would be a solution for this? Now, if we edit the parameter, we see that we have used as parameter class integer. All right? Now, in reality, these are all predefined classes. Okay? We have search, password, comments, integer, x, and so on. Now, there is no class that defines that those values should start with 1000 and should be only numbers. So we have to create it. Okay? We have to use some custom parameters profiles. How do we create these custom profiles? Well, we go to Advanced, and then we go to Libraries. Then we scroll down, and you have a section that's called Custom Parameter Class. Okay? We then add another parameter class, and this could be, for example, search query. Okay. What is the input? Again, the input validation. We don't have it. Damn. We can actually don't use it. Come on. What shall we do? So before we create the class, we create the input. Okay. Search query. We're going to add it. Today, our hypervisor is not that performant. Okay, so now we have my search query input type. I will add a pattern. Okay, now, honestly, I don't know the pattern. I don't know how to write a regex that will allow me to trap only numbers from 1000 to 1099. I don't know how to do this, but this is, in theory, what you have to do. Okay, so you create a pattern name, like this is for items. Okay, then you create your regex. Here I can put items. It will not work, of course. Hopefully there is no validation. Okay, so after I put my, I create my input type, I go and create an input custom class. So in this case, I call it search query, and the validation type it's going to be search query, custom input validation type. Okay, custom input type validation. Okay, so then I can select a tags if I want, pre-default. If I want, I can actually save it. So you don't have to configure this in the parameter configuration, but you configure it in the class. So if you know already that you should filter for SQL injections and cross-site scripting attacks and so on, you can do it here. Now, we have our input type. We have the class. Now we can configure it in our profile. Okay, so you go to parameter, edit, and then let's pretend that this was the filtering of only numbers of 1,000. Yes, thank you for the suggestion. I would try it while you're doing the labs to put that regex and you say if it works. Okay, thank you, Johannes. So this will basically be the locking down of this parameter with numbers from 1,000 to, for example, 1,099. All right. So let's actually close it. And this is how you configure website profiles with URL profiles and parameter profiles. Do you have any questions regarding profiles? All right. If there are no questions, I will show you now how to use the adaptive profiling engine. I will not turn it on because this is something that you will do in the lab, but I will show you how to configure it. Okay. Now, of course, by clicking on Start Learning, the system will start to learn your web application. But with what? With the default settings. Okay. And the default setting says learn from all sources, everything. All right. Now, if you want to change this, which is strongly recommended, go to website, adaptive profiling. All right. Now, here you have your adaptive profiling with your services. Click on edit of one of the services. And then here you can say, I want to learn from success and redirects, from success only, from trusted, that we will see in a moment, or none. I don't want to learn, for example, from responses. I'm only interested in requests. Or I don't want to learn from the request. I'm only interested in responses. Okay, remember, this is the WAF that is learning the web application. Then we can have some parameters that we can ignore, navigation parameters that, again, we can actually help the WAF to learn the structure of the web application. Then, after you have configured adaptive profiling for the service, you then create your rules. Okay? Rules are there to help the WAF to focus on a specific page for adaptive profiling. Okay? Otherwise, again, the WAF will have a scope, which is the whole service, and it would start to learn everything. This is not what you want normally. For example, let's call this payments. Okay, so the URL match might be /payments, and this is host match can be web service 00.qw.org. Okay, this doesn't work here in this environment, but this is just an example. All right, so the WAF will only learn for the payments part, not for the whole web app. Once you have configured your rule, then you go to website profiles, and then you click Start Learning. Then the WAF will start to learn, okay? From live traffic, okay? From traffic generated from your users. Now you might be asking, isn't that dangerous? Yes, it is dangerous, but we have a solution for that. And we will see that in the tuning web application, tuning security policies section, okay? So today. Last thing before we do a break, it's the configuration of optimizers. We go to adaptive profiling again, and here we have the optimizers, all right? We have URL and parameter optimizers. Optimizers are configured per service. If you want to create an optimizer, you just give it a name, like page, and the start token, ABC, page, and the end delimiter is .html. All right, like the example that we had on the slide. So anything that is between page and .html will be combined together, like page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and so on. Okay, so we click save. Oh, what is the problem? Oh, sorry, bad mistake. So this is page, start token ABC, dot slash page, and the end delimiter is dot, okay, for dot HTML, for example. Okay, so this is our profile for the URL, same for the parameter. Okay, for example, the optimizer name is param, and the start token is param, like in the slide. So everything that starts with param then will be saved, okay, as a single profile. Now, if you have parameter optimizers in place and you have using adaptive profiling, this is going to be done automatically. If you already have your profiles in your web and you want to optimize your profiles, you click merge. As soon as you click merge, well, in this case, the system couldn't find any URLs profiles for this pattern, but you would say that, for example, 55 profiles merged or 50 profiles merged, okay? And then you can review the configuration in the website profiles. All right? Good. So I would suggest that we do a 15-minute break, okay, like a longer break, and then we will continue with a couple of features that we have in the profiles. We will do the tuning.